Today's spoiler video is brought to you by Card Kingdom. Use the link below to pre-order your cards today. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for our first daily dose of Theros Beyond Death spoilers. And even though it's not official spoiler season yet, we got a little teaser from Wizards today. 3 mythics, also the confirmation of some lands. 2 of the mythics brand new, one of them was kind of leaked before, but still, we're going to talk about 3 sweet new Theros Beyond Death cards today, and I'm really hyped for these, because the cards that Wizards decided to show off are super sweet and has me hyped for Theros Beyond Death standard. So anyway, a quick reminder before we jump into the cards, if you haven't already, it would be so awesome of you if you could take a second, click that subscribe button down at the bottom of your screen. It's a great way to support the channel and the site for free. So let's talk some new Theros Beyond Death cards, starting with a new Planeswalker, Ashiok Nightmare Muse. So as you can see, not only do we get the normal Art of Ashiok, we also got the deluxe edition, whatever it's going to be called, Art of Ashiok. So same card, 2 different arts, Ashiok Nightmare Weaver. 5 mana, 5 loyalty, +1 you make a 2/3 Nightmare, and whenever it attacks or blocks, each opponent exiles the top 2 cards of their library. -3, you can bounce a non-land permanent, and whoever's permanent was has to exile a card from their hand. -7, you can cast 3 face-up cards from your opponent's exile zone without paying their mana cost. Super awesome, unique, really cool. I love the design on this. This is a Planeswalker that seems pretty powerful. I mean, +1 to make a token, that's good. -3 to recoil, that's good. -7 to cast a bunch of stuff for free, that's also good. But it's still unique. It's not the typical old boring +1 draw a card, negative something to kill something, ultimate win the game. It's a unique way to build this Planeswalker. So if we dig into what Ashiok does, first off, the +1, it gives you a 2/3, which is kind of Soul Designer stats. So I think essentially you're getting about 2 mana worth of value from that 2/3, and it has a bit of an upside. The upside of exiling cards when that creature attacks or blocks, if you're playing a mill deck, it's relevant. Mostly, if you're not playing a deck that's like dedicated to milling your opponent out, mostly the value is it's fueling the eventual ultimate of Ashiok Nightmare Muse. So there will be cards in the exile zone, hopefully, by the time you get up to 7 loyalty. The -3 ability, kind of like a dispersal or a recoil. The value of this, I mean, just bouncing something, making your opponent discard a card, it's kind of already like a 1.5 for 1. However, if you can get your opponent empty-handed, then the -3 becomes even better, because your opponent's going to have to pick up whatever their best non-land permanent is, and they're immediately going to have to exile it, which is really, really powerful. So I think that the -3 is actually a really powerful ability on the Planeswalker. And then the -7, I don't know what to compare it to. I think I went with Golos Tireless Pilgrim, but it's basically a Golos that doesn't cost any mana, it costs a bunch of loyalty. However, it only works for your opponent's exile zone, so it is a bit dependent on what's in your opponent's deck. If you're up against mono red and it's all random 1-drops, not that exciting. On the other hand, if your opponent's playing some Nissas and other big Planeswalkers and creatures, then that -7 is going to be absurd and potentially just game winning. So I think Ashiok, it's definitely a super sweet Planeswalker. My one big concern for Ashiok, and this is true of a lot of Planeswalkers, but it lines up pretty poorly with Questing Beast. It makes 2/3s, and while upticking to make a token every turn is really powerful, unfortunately the tokens it's making cannot actually block a Questing Beast, so I'm a little worried that Ashiok's going to be prone to being sniped by Questing Beasts, but that is kind of a Planeswalker problem more than just an Ashiok problem. On the other hand, I think there's a lot of decks that could potentially take advantage of Ashiok. First off, could be a straight blue-black control deck, or maybe an Esper control deck, where Ashiok just making a bunch of tokens, bouncing some stuff, attacking your opponent's hand, and eventually ultimating is a pretty reasonable threat. Also could show up in Niv Mizzet Reborn decks. It is 2 colors, so you can snag it off Niv Mizzet. Some sort of super frenzy 5-color Fires Planeswalker deck could also show up there. So I think that that offers a lot of potential. The other thing I wanted to mention about Ashiok is it also seems good in a dedicated mill deck. Maybe you're playing like Ashiok Dreamrender, Drown Secrets, cards like that where you're able to really attack your opponent's library. Then Ashiok gets even better. It's making tokens that can exile the top cards of your opponent's library. It's bouncing your opponent's stuff to slow them down and attacking their hand. And if you're playing other exile effects, like Uncommon Ashiok, you're really going to load up your opponent's exile zone and potentially have a ton of options by the time you get to Ultimate. So I feel like Control Planeswalker potentially, Super Friends Planeswalker potentially, Mill Planeswalker as well. So a really really sweet card all around. Our next card today, we have confirmation of gods returning with Aetherios Shroud Veiled, and Aetherios is really sweet. We see that the gods from Theros Beyond Death, or at least Aetherios, this is the only one we've seen so far, are returning to kind of the paradigm that we saw with the gods from Born of the Gods. So Aetherios God of Passage, very similar to Aetherios Shroud Veil, in that you need 7 devotion of the right colors, in this case white or black because that's Aetherios' colors, to turn it into a creature. So Aetherios is going to be a 6 mana enchantment most of the time. But if you could get 5 other black or white mana symbols, because Aetherios gives you 2, then all of a sudden you get this 4 or 7 indestructible, which, not an insane body, but it's a reasonable body on a 6-drop. The sweet thing about Aetherios is its ability, and this is an ability that works whether it's a creature or not. At the beginning of your end step, you put a coin counter on another creature, and remember, that says creature. It doesn't say creature you control, so you do it to anyone's creature, and then when a creature with a coin counter dies or goes to exile, you get to return that card to the battlefield under your control. So my first thought for Aetherios is, this is probably a great commander card. I would play this in a lot of commander decks. It seems like a fun build around commander, also seems like a fine card in the 99, but as far as standard is concerned, it works really well with specifically some of the Cavalier cycle, like the white and black Cavalier. Not only do the Cavaliers add a lot of mana symbols to turn Aetherios into a creature, but they really synergize with its ability, because what you want to do with Aetherios is get some coin counters on stuff and then have that stuff die, return for value. So let's say you're playing Cavalier of Dawn, Cavalier of Night. You're maybe gonna get a counter on your Cavalier of Dawn, let's say. You probably have Aetherios in creature mode because you have a bunch of white mana symbols and black mana symbols. Then you can, like, Cavalier of Dawn, sack Cavalier of Night, kill something, get back Cavalier of Night, which also gets back an artifact or enchantment from your graveyard. That returns to play again to blow up something else. So you could do these really sweet value-y loops by killing your own stuff. Rankle comes into play there too, so I think that would be my favorite home for Aetherios in Standard. And this is a Buy a Box Probo, by the way, worth pointing out. So I think that would be my favorite home for Aetherios in Standard, is like a Cavalier style deck. Also, could work in just an aristocrat style deck. Little bit expensive is my main concern. 6 mana is asking a lot, and if you're paying 6 mana in an aristocrat style deck, you're often looking to win the game with like Bantu or something where you just sack your board and combo off, but still you can get some sweet grindy value with Cruel Celebrants and Tisas and Mayhem Devils. So if Aetherios shows up in Standard, I think that's probably where it's going to be. On the other hand, one of my favorite parts about Aetherios, for Commander in specific, is you could put a coin on any creature. So what I want to do with Aetherios is kind of play a steal your opponent's stuff deck. It's kind of reminiscent of like Grave Betrayal, Limdul the Necromancer, Fool's Demise, cards that you can have your opponent's creatures die and then get them back under your control. So while Aetherios is slow, it's going to stick out there most likely because it's indestructible, which it makes it hard to get rid of. If you don't have enough devotion, it's not even a creature, which makes it even harder because it doesn't get Swords to Plowshares or whatever. So you can get a few coin counters on things, and then maybe you cast a Damnation, a Wrath of God, a Doomblade, and all of a sudden your opponent's creatures are coming back from the graveyard to join your side of the board, and you just wrath the board, so your opponent's not going to have anything left. So I think Aetherios is a really sweet commander card. Definitely seems fairly powerful, although not broken for a Buy a Box Probo, and I really like it. I'm not super high on it seeing Standard play. Maybe it sees a little bit in some sort of mid-rangey Orzhov Cavalier style deck like we were talking about, but definitely a card I would heavily consider for a commander deck that's in the colors, because worst case, use it to save your own creatures, load up some coin counters. If your opponent kills them, you get them back. That's nice value as it is. Best case, you could do some really fun things where you get to steal really powerful creatures from your opponent by putting coin counters on them. Otherwise today, we got a couple of confirmations. You might remember like a month ago, there was some leaks. One of the cards that we saw was Elspeth's Sun's Nemesis, but Elspeth has been confirmed both with normal art and the Probo art. So we got another Planeswalker, a Mythic Planeswalker, our Phase Planeswalker. So Elspeth's Sun's Nemesis, it's kind of a weird card. When you look at this card, it doesn't jump off the page as super powerful. 4 mana, 5 loyalty, no upticking ability, so everything is taking loyalty away. -1, you can pump 2 creatures, +2/+1. -2, make a couple of 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. -3, you gain 5 life. The interesting part about Elspeth is the escape mechanic. So escape is a mechanic that allows you to cast cards from your graveyard. So in Elspeth's case, if Elspeth is in your graveyard, which she's going to get there pretty quickly because she's just down ticking, you can pay 6 mana, exile 4 other cards from your graveyard, and cast Elspeth from your graveyard. So even though none of the abilities jump out on Elspeth is super powerful, and she's going to kill herself relatively quickly from the down ticks, the power of Elspeth is it's very annoying to deal with long term because you can keep casting it again, and casting it again, and casting it again. So the little bits of value that don't really look all that striking are going to start adding up. Like you can play it, down ticket for soldiers, down ticket for soldiers, down ticket to pub soldiers, cast it from your graveyard again. Also worth mentioning, if you get enough mana, you can kind of double up in the same turn, where you can like -2, have it go to your graveyard, -2 again. So Elspeth Sun's Nemesis, if you delve into the abilities, kind of the closest you can get is a bunch of 2 mana abilities. Symbiosis, sort of the -1 pumping ability, not quite, probably a little bit better. Raise the Alarm, basically the -2 ability, almost exactly the -2 ability, making 2/1/1 soldiers. And then the -3, you gain 5 life. Meh. White Sun's Passage, I guess. Not really an exciting ultimate, so to speak, for a card like Elspeth Sun's Nemesis. But again, the power of Elspeth is the repeatability. Not that any ability is super good, it's that you get to keep doing it over and over again. So thought one of where Elspeth could fit in Standard. Some sort of green-white aggro, maybe green-white adventures, green-white tokens, where the tokens for Elspeth is nice. You can maximize the pumping value if you have evasive creatures like Fairy Guidemother. Pumping 2 different flyers, +2/+1, that's a lot of damage, and then maybe you run into like mono red or something and the life gain is nice, plus you keep getting it back from the graveyard. It's also possible that a control deck might want Elspeth, probably in small numbers. It is true that with the escape mechanic, where you have to exile those 4 cards from your graveyard, similar to what we've seen with some delve cards, that does start taxing your graveyard eventually. You can't do it over and over and over and over again, because you're going to run out of cards in your graveyard. But being able to play Elspeth, get some value out of it, get it back from your graveyard, I think that could have a home in some sort of Teferi, Gadwick, Time Wipe type deck in our current Standard metagame. So I feel like Elspeth is a card that people are going to underrate. I really do. I've seen a lot of people already kind of like, man, I don't know, the abilities don't look very good. I think that Elspeth is way better than we think. I think that Elspeth is actually going to be very powerful. There is a long track record in Magic of cards that can come back from the graveyard repeatedly being very powerful. Think of like Dreadwanderer or Worldbreaker or Molderhulk. These are all cards that have been staples in various Standard formats. Worldbreaker sees play back to Modern and Pioneer. Dreadwanderer sees play back to Pioneer. I think that Elspeth, as this recursive Planeswalker, is going to be very good. I think it's going to be much more powerful than most people give it credit for. I think people are going to underestimate the escape mechanic, and the Elspeth is actually going to be a shining star in Standard. So that's my take. I think it's going to be underrated. I will say it's another Planeswalker that gets wrecked by Questing Beast, which is a problem, but still, Questing Beast stress everything. So I think Elspeth's going to be a lot better than most people are giving it credit for at the moment. Finally today, we got confirmation of the lands of Theros Beyond Death, and oh my goodness, are these lands sweet. So these are the textless no art lands, essentially. I don't even know what you want to call these, but just big mana symbols in the swirling Nyx sky, and I think these cards look awesome. Most importantly, it was confirmed that you're getting 1 per pack. They're coming like normal lands. These aren't some special promo thing. You don't have to buy a $250 box of deluxe edition or something to get them. These are just normal lands that are coming in the pack of Theros, so everyone's gonna have them. They look super awesome. I am hyped for them. I have wanted no art lands for a long time, and I think this is about as close as we can get to no art lands. So well done on the lands, and I'm super excited and thankful that they're not some expensive promo, but just the normal lands that you get in every pack. Anyway, that's all we got for today. Kind of some small surprise early spoilers, but some super sweet cards. So let me know what you think about these cards. How busted is Ashiok Nightmare Muse? What do you want to do with our new exiling Planeswalker, casting stuff for your opponent's exile zone? What about our buy a box promo? Aetherios Shroud Veiled. How good is that actually going to be? Can it show up in Standard? Is it more of just a commander thing? What do you want to put those coin counters on? What about Elspeth Sun's Nemesis? Who's right on this one? Do you think it is being fairly rated is not very powerful because its abilities don't look great? Or is it a bit of a sleeper because the escape mechanic might be a little bit better than some people are giving it credit for right now? And the lands, what do you think of the no art lands? Let me know that as well. Anyway, We should have more Theros spoilers, I'm assuming, around the first of the year, but who knows? Maybe we get some more early ones. So that's all for today, our first edition of daily Theros Beyond Death spoilers. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.